Hi everyone, welcome back to Winter Chats with Robyn. I'm nervous because I hope it works because Lindsey is doing everything right, and let's see if Instagram will respect that. Because look, Instagram, I'm trying here. We're doing everything right. We're following your instructions. We just want to do a little chat. That's all we ask. Let's try. I'm hoping, Lindsey. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling this one.
Oh, it was my forehead. Hello.
Hi. Oh my gosh, this is the most dramatic part, and every time I have a little bit of a heart attack, but I'm good. I'm here. My heart rate is lowering.
It's all good. You know what? In these times, what we always have to do is just kind of pivot and go with it. So, and everyone totally gets it too.
That is, I know that's the thing. I think everyone's very understanding of the tech fails. So that's it's cool. I mean, how many people are on the internet now that wouldn't normally be, right? Like how many people are working from home that it's like, I didn't know I could work from home, but we're making it work. So
Exactly. And in your defense, Rogers is down today with their cell service. So
Rogers was unaware that I had to do some chats today, and I will be talking to them. We will have a discussion.
it is so nice to see you, and thank you so much for having me on. I'm a huge fan of watching all of your chats. I find it really feel like I should be interviewing you and asking you some questions about how it got started. But I really enjoy listening to all the different types of people that you take time to have a conversation with. It's great to hear some people's behind stories and where they started and why they've chosen different paths within their career. So I enjoy it.
Thank you so much. And I mean, I love chatting with you. I love learning from you. So I reached out because I'm like, I don't know, maybe you should be interested. And you're like, yeah. I'm like, what? Because I don't know. I always joke with my husband when someone calls me and they're like, I watched it. I'm like, why? I, you know, it's just like this actor in me just doesn't think anything I produce is valuable. But it's you know what? It's just so nice to talk to people and see their face. But I like the one face at a time. When you do those giant Zoom rooms and there's 10, 20 people, that's a little too much, right? That's like a little, let's have a side conversation. But this works. And sometimes we get the comments from the bottom. We'll see what happens. People will keep it clean and respectful. I know not to respond to the ones that are not clean and respectful. I'm learning a lot. You're at a point now where I've done them enough that I won't read all the comments. There are things that are said sometimes and you're like, oh, maybe I should say that. No, you don't repeat that. It's learning. But I honestly, I asked you because I think you're awesome. And I know I saw my little bro, David. He's here. Shout out to Dave. And we are a huge fan of everything that you do because the way you teach is you are so positive. It's not okay how positive you are because I know sometimes I do a take and it's terrible. Like it is terrible. There's no, don't you see, again, you're shaking your head. I'm like, no, that was terrible. And we move on. But you're positive. I don't know how you do it.
But it's not that I'm positive. One, there's no point in telling someone if something sucks, because there's always something good in what someone has done. And it's better to focus on what was great and build on that than to sit there and talk about what was crap. So that's just kind of like my philosophy, I guess, with life is, okay, yeah, sure, some stuff sucked. We both know that, but let's talk about what worked and let's make it better, right?
That's definitely a healthier approach, which is why we like working with you.
Now, yeah. I do also like telling people when things are terrible sometimes, however, I should say, but not all the time.
It is a rarity. That's why when you tell someone it's bad, they know it's bad because you don't tell, and then they go, oh, that must have been really bad if Lindsey's telling me it's bad. But I'm honestly so fascinated in your story because, look, like any good person doing these chats, I totally listen to your demo reels and I love them. And I just want to know, like, what you went from voice actor to where you are now. And I want to know everything, but I also want to respect your time. So we'll tackle one question at a time. So, I mean, I'll let you respond to my rant there, but in the sense of, like, what made you want to go into voice in general? When did you know you had a cool voice, like you could do things with your voice? And
well, I've always been a very talkative person. And I love the playfulness of voice for me. And if you know me, I have a sleeve tattoo of 80s cartoons because I love cartoons. I love video games, and I really love listening to what people can stretch and do with their voice. And I've always wanted to be able to do that. Why I got into it, I used to be a performer very unsuccessfully for both on camera and theater. And I stepped out of that to start working at a talent agency, and I had a wonderful time there. And I started to help other people with their auditions. And that was sort of the bulk of my work when I worked at the agency. Every day from 10 to 5, I had a different audition, whether it was on camera, theater, or voice, every 30 minutes. And I loved that. But, you know, once you're a performer, it's always kind of in you. And so I missed my own opportunity to be a creative person. And so I got representation and continued to do that sort of alongside of helping other people. And for me, it's two very different aspects of my personality. And I genuinely want other people to succeed, probably far more than I would like myself to, because I really enjoy helping others become the best that they can do within their own auditions. But I like getting to play a little bit as well. So I pursued that, and it's been a great sort of side career, I guess to say. And for the most part, I've kind of stuck to commercials, and I've dabbled a little bit into animation, but really anything that gets thrown at me, I'm happy to give it a whirl to.
Do you have a coach when you're going for something? Does someone coach you, or are you just like, I got this, whatever, here's me?
I have never had any. Yes, so I think it is that. And I think because when I was an on-camera performer, this is going to sound so silly. I was like a lot of people. I was so invested and so nervous and sad about whether or not I was going to do a great job that those nerves and that self-doubt always got in my way. And now, because I know I have something else, that directing is kind of more top of my pile than performing, I walk in knowing I'm just going to give my best, and I'm going to walk away, because I can't always be right for stuff. And so I think that confidence in myself, that I'm just going to audition and give it a try, as opposed to wanting so badly the job and putting that first. It's not that I don't care, but I understand that there's another one that's going to be right behind it. So that's a very long-winded, and if you know me, that I always do these long sort of journeys to the answer. So no, I don't typically. I get coaching. I actually miss being in class, and I would really like to go back into it, because I tell everyone else that they should be, and then I don't take my own advice. But I really love sitting in classes and actually listening and learning from other performers, as much as I encourage other performers to do, because, you know, there's something that someone else does or brings to the table that I would never have thought of. And I need to put more time into my own training, I would say.
That's why we're having this. I'm going to become a voice coach, because I've done so.
Sign me up.
No, but it's so true though. I do a lot of audiobooks with you, but I think it was the animation one that I did with you. And I think we had similar sides, and then you see what other people bring to the table. You're like, oh, didn't even picture this character as that. So there is something to be said with group classes. And again, I've never really thought of myself as a team player, but then as I work with other people, I'm like, oh, I like working as a team. So it's a very interesting process. Also, are you holding your phone? Because
I totally am, because I thought I was going to
get tired. Okay. I'm looking and I'm thinking,
it's all about the angle. The angle's got to be above, otherwise I get the double chin. I'm just kidding. I'm just going to do this. Plus, my basement is a mess. So sorry to everyone who's getting like sick with Lindsay moving around. So I'm going to do this.
This is action based. This is the exciting thing. I'm stationary so you can move, right? I want everyone to focus on you. And the thing that's moving is what you're going to draw that attention. There you go.
Yep.
This is, all right. And we're rolling, and action.
And ship. No, sorry.
This is funny in my head, but I appreciate you going along with it. I'm like, I'm looking at the artwork now, the red and orange.
Oh, yes. If we look, Lindsay has all of her kids' artwork up, and pretty much over the entire basement and all of the rooms. Both of my boys are very much into art, and myself as a kid, art was one of my favorite things to do. And what I enjoy about it is there kind of isn't a wrong way to do it, particularly when you do abstract and it's more emotion based. So depending how I'm feeling that day will depend how much paint goes on the canvas. But I quite like the cathartic sort of release of just having something blank and just throwing yourself at it. And I think I apply that as well to any of the performing that I do, or I encourage other people when I work with them to do as well.
That's so artistic. I'm trying to picture myself paint and I don't see it happening. Just, this is wrong. Like, it's just that, again, that in my head of like, no, the red stripe is wrong. And there's no wrong. That's the thing. And that's what it's so hard to wrap your head around. There's no right way to do art. So just do your art, and some people like it, some people don't. Move on from there.
And I think that the same thing can be applied to performing both voice and on camera. I find one of the biggest questions I get asked from especially new people or just dipping their toe into the voiceover industry is this right for me? Can I be a performer? And that always breaks my heart when I hear that, because who is anyone to tell you you can't do this? Now, there is the realism answer in that, which is, are you going to be extremely successful at it? Only, I mean, possibly not. However, if you put work in, there is always going to be a level of improvement that can be had. And so you're a performer as long as you are trying to do the work. Can that be your main career and you're going to buy expensive cars and a big house? Well, no, not everyone can do that. But put in the work and see how far it takes you. Like you're in control of that aspect of your career. And I think you should never let anyone tell you it's not for you. If you ask someone, can I be a performer? And they say yes, and then you sit there and wait for the opportunities to come to you and you do no training, then no, I'm sorry, you cannot at that point. But we all have sort of I'm sure I've said this to you before, Robyn, we all have a bag of tricks in front of us, and what we do with those bag of tricks ultimately helps us become part of what we're hoping to be. So it's what you do with those tricks, really.
Classic. A magician never reveals their tricks. So I apologize if there's a delay on my end. I think we're okay now. There was a bit of a choppiness, but I'm blaming Rogers. You're ruining our chat, and yeah, you're going to get some angry emails. Grr. You know what? I feel bad for anyone that has to read those angry emails. People are angry nowadays over anything, so that's just unfortunate. Apologies. Poor random person reading emails. I won't send you one. I just did a full circle. That was great. But can I backtrack a bit? Because I actually don't know if I knew you were a theater performer. And I would love to discuss that, if that's cool.
Yeah, for sure.
You're laughing. Okay.
I laugh because, I grew up in Uxbridge, which was a fantastic place to grow up. The house we lived, we had 4.5 acres, and we backed onto the Durham Forest. So I literally had one of those childhoods of out in the climbing trees, doing God knows what for most of the day, and getting into lots of trouble my parents had no idea about. But I had so much space. And so to go back to the original question, I started my theater there. They have a wonderful community theater group there called Uxbridge Players. And I started off performing, I'm trying to think how old I would have been, maybe 12, 13-ish, obviously in school plays. But I really started to do some community theater, loved it. Got every opportunity to go to Theatre Ontario summer camp and stay away for a week from my family and train. And then I went to U of T, and I was in their theater program in amongst the other degrees that I was doing. And I just loved it. I love theater. I love theater people. I love the live element, and you can just feel the energy from the performers. And it's in my bio somewhere that the reason I became a performer was when I was 9, my mom took me to Phantom of the Opera. And I was very spoiled and was 2 rows back from the stage. And one of the performers turned and looked at me. And she smiled during one of the musical numbers. And I'm like, I want to be that when I grow up. And it was so magical for me. And that sort of sparkle has always stayed with me. So so I dabbled a bit in theater, always community theater. But I love it. I just love it. I don't know that my brain is there for memorizing anymore, though.
Well, it's such an interesting switch, right? When you go to voiceover and you go, oh, I don't have to learn the words. This is half the job is done.
Yes.
It's very
Yes.
confusing. I'm like, oh my God, my mental health is so calm when the words are here. I did my work and here you go.
Yeah.
It's very, I think you could do it. We're going to put together a theater show. I'm going to give you a role. It'll be like girl number 3, so not too much, but you're still like bronze girl, you know? So you get a medal if we need to place. That's. But you know what? I love the energy that, I don't know if you still keep in touch with your old theater friends, but the energy that when you go out with theater friends, there is just, that night is nonstop talking, pace. Like I know if I were to go out with my husband's friends from his law group, again, love them, but there's a different energy. So yeah. It's just when you go one night theater and then the other night just, you know, your average chum, it's different. And I miss that, having that energy, being surrounded by just, and you can even just sit there and you just entertained by watching people tell a story. It's pretty magical.
A lot of jazz hands. A lot of jazz hands.
You know what? I'm going to blame theater. I became a hand talker because of theater. And just like, I have to tell stories. And can you hear me back there in the back table at the restaurant? I know I'm not still performing, but aren't I always on? Just kind of.
But what's fantastic is when you hold on to parts of that sort of freeness of your body in speaking, is that it helps you as a voiceover performer. I find watching and listening to performers, especially now directing, where sometimes I can't see the performer, you can hear in their voice if their hands are in their pocket, and you can go, you don't sound as free. Are your hands in your pocket? Are they closed? What's happening? Because just the physicality you hold affects that one instrument. So it's great to have done theater and be a hand talker. In fact, I encourage people, particularly when they're reading that script that they have no connection to and they don't understand it or know why they're saying it, I'm like, talk with your hands. Put yourself in that TED Talk stage, talk with your hands and try and encourage, I'm doing it as I say it, encourage someone to understand. And just that physicality, even if you're saying a bunch of stuff that you don't understand, that physicality puts that confidence in your voice and it shifts it.
Absolutely. You give, I was thinking, or even just, you know, try and sound like you're having a conversation. That's my favorite advice that you give me. Oh yeah, I should be talking to someone. That makes sense. It's not just words.
But it's interesting because a lot of people forget that when you're doing stuff. We're so focused on reading it as opposed to, and it doesn't matter what medium we're in, whether it's audiobooks or commercial or animation or video game. You're saying it to someone, whether you're saying it to yourself because you're the only character in the scene, or you're ultimately saying it for the end user to hear. So there should always be that level of connection, or you're just reading words. You're not saying anything. So it sounds silly, but a lot of people go, oh yeah, who am I talking to and why am I saying it?
It's not silly. You need someone like Lindsey to point out the obvious. And it's such, I guarantee everyone's going to have that epiphany. It's, oh yes, it's not just words. Hello, good sir. You know, like whatever the words are. Yes, it's a conversation, of course.
We just had 2 different accents there in both of those lines, by the way.
I do enjoy the voices. You know what? I was crushed when I'm getting more into animation. And it's like, well, no, they don't want you to put on voices. They want you to be yourself. Excuse me?
Yeah. But I want to be a Barbie animation character. Yeah.
I want to do all the voices. And then it just gets nice. Surprisingly not applicable. Is there a character that is there like a favorite character or job that you booked that you wanted to buy some kind of plush toy to commemorate? This is my character.
I'm trying to think. There was an on-camera character, and I know this isn't the question, but there was an on-camera character that I booked that was supposed to be like badass. They were going to shave my head and give me like black hair, and it was a zombie apocalypse movie, and it was so cool. And we never got to film because their funding fell through. And so for me, I was like, but she was going to kill things and it was going to be kick-ass, and it didn't happen. So that would be like a character. I love strong, sort of very determined characters because it's very opposite of what I am in real life. I'm a big wuss. And in terms of VO, you know, this is going to sound a bit of a cop, but I kind of really have enjoyed everything I've gotten a chance to do because they're all so different. And so I really enjoyed the challenge of just stretching the range of, can I do this? Oh, I can. Okay, great. Now I'm going to try something totally different. Like today it's, you know, I played a little boy fish in an animation series called The Adventures of Sea Kids. And he was fun and cute and it was adorable. And then, you know, the next day I'm going and voicing a commercial for Ancestry. And it's like, well, it's a different sort of mature woman versus little boy fish. So I kind of just like the challenge of flipping all over the place.
I love that I could recognize your voice when you did that Cage casting promo. I'm like, oh, look at her go. This is so fun. You were great. You were great. It's good to know that I'm training with someone that knows what they're doing. That's always helpful. You know, when like someone's actually working in the field, you're like, oh, good. Okay, cool. Not just, you know, no idea, but take my
I'm
class.
Also a member.
It was great. I love that too. And I'm like, oh, look at this life you've given this thing. It was fun. Okay. But that was, again, you've done a lot more. That's just something that I'm like, oh my God, is this Lindsey? I know her. And it was like a weird celebrity moment of this random clip on Facebook. I know. I got very excited. I'm like, is this what my day is now? Is this the highlight of my day? It was. It really was. Are you the person when it comes to Cage casting, are you the person that just does promos, or did they say, Lindsey, it's your turn, you're up?
No, you know what's fantastic? Probably the best thing about working at KH is that it's such an encouraging environment, and there's no, oh, you must do this now. It's a lot of the time I just decided, hey, I think we should do this. And Kim will go, hey, that's kind of awesome. And then we'll just do it. Like, it's just this, it's such an encouraging, again, creative, nurturing environment that I feel very free to try stuff. And if it doesn't work, well, we just don't release it, because there's some things that don't work, let me tell you. And so no, that was me just being ridiculous and silly because I really like being that, and saying, you know, we need to do some promo. Why don't we try this? We're a voice agency. Why don't we do it by voice? And, you know, Daryl as well as Ted also have voice experience as performers. So it just happens to be that I'm the bossy one that decides to do it. They also could, you know, hey, throw that. I'm sure they'll love it. Throw that on the Facebook. Hey, Ted, really hoping you'll do one next.
We'll just start calling everyone out. Just tagging them all, starting a whole campaign, being like, look, Lindsey started this, okay? So start on here. We do the little clips of, guys, Lindsey thinks you need to step it up. So let's make this happen. There's no incentive. I love this. This is terrible idea. But, you know, no idea is a bad idea, but I would beg to differ. I don't think that was a good idea.
Yeah, so some are less good ideas. Maybe not bad, just less good.
Less good. I'm curious, when it came to getting a job at KH, do you just send in your demo reel? Like, how did that work? Because I feel like you have to be proficient in voice, which you are.
Yes. Now, I had worked at the talent agency for a number of years, with almost every single job except accounting, which is a very good thing, within the company. And so I had a lot of years experience just in the industry in general, and then a good bulk of 4 to 5 working with the voice department. So I had that background. Actually, the reason I wanted to work with KH is I did my demo with Kim and Craig. And that was I just thought they were the most wonderful people. I loved how they direct. They were concise, which I'm not. They were concise and straightforward and so encouraging. And I had such a fun time. And I thought, oh, I want to work there. And so I had reached out and just said, if you're ever looking for anyone, I would love to stay on your radar. And I think might have been a year at the time I was working part-time at the agency, doing a number of other things. And Kim ended up having a little bit of a spot. And I find in this industry, I probably have never applied for any job. It's always been a friend of a friend going, hey, so-and-so's looking. So no, I've never sent my demo off and being like, could you please hire me? Or my resume. It's really just someone knowing that there's a position, or talking to someone and them going, you know what? I want to work with you. I'm going to make it happen. Might not be today. Maybe it's a year later, but it's that kind of sort of organic growth, I should say.
Organic growth. I like that phrase. I said phase and I meant phrase. That's my English right now. But that's
okay.
I love that. But it is. I always end up, I joke, because like everything, I'm just tagging cage casting because it always comes up. This one made sense. You work there. But organically, it tends to come up. So it's always nice working for a place where they're good people. That's unfortunately a rarity more often than not. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, I almost turned this into a job interview. I'm almost like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? You know, that whole, I'm like, why am I doing that? It's a weird question. And we didn't discuss that as being a question. So we're going to.
No, that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, my brother has a question. Can you identify talent in voiceover? What do you look for? David, great question.
How can you identify talent in voiceover? Well, sometimes you can just hear that someone's got a natural inclination for it. I've worked with a lot of new people, which is I really enjoy doing, that just understand their voice. I would say people who are singers have a natural inclination for understanding the musicality in their voice and what that means. And sorry, I'm moving the camera again. What that means and how to I say this a lot, let the words do the heavy lifting, as opposed to forcing and encouraging and over-processing kind of a read. And so you can just hear sometimes when someone has that natural inclination to it. But as I've said before, you got to work at it. One of my favorite kind of things is you don't wake up and say, I'm going to play in the NHL tomorrow. You have to start training. You have to learn how to skate. You have to learn how to shoot. Clearly, I like hockey, by the way. You have to put all that skill in. Now, obviously, you need to have a level of athleticism, but you can build on it. So it just depends how much work you put in to it. So how can you hear if someone's great? You can hear what their natural talent is, and then it's up to them to build on that.
I wonder, at the time, have you ever heard someone have a natural talent and they just didn't work at it? That I know some people, I'm like, you are so good. And they can get far, right? They can get to a certain place and then they just don't want to work on it. And the person in me is so, I really admire how far they came, but I'm like, oh, if I had your natural talent, I would use it. It's just, I'm not saying it's wasteful, but it is wasteful. I am saying it's wasteful.
But sometimes when you have a natural talent because you didn't have to work to get to that, say your starting point in a scale of 1 out of 10 is a 5. So if you're starting at a 5 already with that natural inclination to whatever it is you're doing, you don't understand how easy how great it is to start at the 5. Whereas some people who really want to do whatever it is I'm imagining, they have to work so hard to get to that 5. So they've put in some of that work to get there and they already know, great, I've done the hard work. Now I need to build on that. And for some people, because they didn't have to work at it and they already started kind of midway, they're fine with that.
That's true. That, you know what? Yeah. If that is where they're comfortable, you're right. No judgment.
I heard the judgment there, Robyn. Way to go.
I was trying to save myself. I'm like, oh God, these are recorded. Dear God, Robyn. People are
and
listening.
Delete.
And no, I'll keep it. You're saying some valuable stuff. I'll just be like, ignore my thoughts. This is Robyn on an odd amount of coffee. It's like I had a half calf, so I'm like, but I didn't fully drink it. So is it like a quarter calf? I don't know. This is
math is not. I work in the arts, my friend. Math is not my strong point. That is no flag against anyone in the arts that's really good at math, by the way.
No, it was just a curious. That's okay. You know what? I brought in the hard questions, and we didn't prep. We didn't prep for this. The other questions we did that I did send you, and I think you told me the answer, but I do enjoy the fact that at Cage Casting, everyone is a superhero, and you chose Mystique, the blue. I hope that's correct. The blue Mystique.
Yep.
Would you care to share with the Instagram group why you chose said character?
Well, first of all, when you get to choose a superhero character, yeah, I'm going with blue. As a kid, I always wanted to have blue hair. My mom would never let me, which was a very smart choice now as an adult realizing that. But I always wanted blue. And because I love color, in case you haven't noticed, I have lots of tattoos that are very, very colorful. So I was drawn immediately to finding a superhero character that had a different color of like vibrant skin. And Mystique is so cool. That she can morph and change into anyone really speaks to me, because I find myself as a person am quite a chameleon in terms of the groups that I sort of I'm a personality that adapts very well to other types of personalities, and so I get along quite well with almost everyone. I like almost everyone as well, and so that characteristic that she has of this morphing into others, and I'm talking about the positive side because she's kind of a devilish character, which is also great. That was really what drew it to me. Was some of the one, she's blue, two, she can become anything, and that would be awesome. What do you think? See someone else walking down and become that. Sorry.
You really sold me on that, because I used to think I wanted to be invisible, like that kind of cool power where you could be anywhere and no one knows. And then, like I want to be invisible and fly, but then I think a plane would hit me. So maybe not those two together. That's just dangerous. But morphing into something else could be really cool. So now I have three to consider. It's always that question, like, what would your superpower be? This is a common question in everyday life. But now I have to debate. I'm going to have to write a pros and cons list, get really intellectual with it.
No, that's way overthinking it. Way overthinking it.
That's all I do.
It's got to be one of those powers too, though, that doesn't hide you from other people. So like invisible is great, but then you're hiding from everyone, and you don't get to experience stuff. Sure, you get to listen to a whole bunch of things, but yeah, I like that. I like the invisible. Overthinking about the getting hit by a plane.
Yeah,
that was fly and you're invisible. I'm pretty sure you'll be savvy about something extra.
I never thought about that till it came out of my mouth. I thought that would be weird. That would be weird. I never considered that. I think, you know what? I'm named Robyn, and maybe I'm just like my inner bird wants to fly. So that got deep. It's spelled differently. Not to be confused, Robyn with an I. I don't think so. Fancy Y for me. But oh yeah, you spell Lindsey E-Y. How many people spell that wrong?
Oh, all the time. I still remember going in grade school when you would get the Valentines, and it's like, nope. So you would see lots of interesting different, and I just kind of roll with it. It is what it is. And my youngest son is named Aiden, and we have him A-N, and everyone, including my family, spells his name wrong as well. So
I love when family gets it wrong. And I think my favorite is when I get an email and it's to my name, Robyn with a Y. And then in the name, it's Robyn with an I. There's hello, Robyn. Hello, I'm confused why you don't know how to spell my name. But that's just my side pet peeve. I like to get annoyed by the little things in life. It makes life that much more complicated. So that's how I live. It's great. Super healthy. I recommend it to no one. But I keep getting sidetracked because you're just a fun person to chat with. I swear I brought you for a reason. I love everything coaching wise with you, and I selfishly was worried that when I brought you on to chat that then you just get booked up for voiceovers, and I've been putting off I have to do another session with you. I'm like, but then I didn't book my session, so like save the session for me and it'll be fine. But you know what it is? When I was working with you, it's that stamina. When you do an audiobook, to have that stamina, I think after an hour session, I'm going, dear God, I am tired. So how would you encourage people to build up that stamina other than like, look, the sad thing is you encouraged me to read a book, and I don't know the last time I read a book before I started working with you. It was really sad. It was really sad. But other than like reading books aloud for hours on end, is there any exercise that you would recommend?
You got to run 10 miles a day. You got to do like 3 minutes of nonstop burpees. No, I'm kidding.
I was listening.
That was
I'm like, oh my God, I tried to run today. It was terrible.
Oh, I can't run. No,
Oh,
um, and just to touch back on the reading a book aloud, it's not necessarily reading a book. It's taking anything that's written down and just focus on the small steps. So if it's hard to read a book in general, pick up anything, focus on reading aloud for 5 minutes. So even if that's when you're reading your text messages or your emails, it's practicing the use of your voice in words you didn't write and reading them with confidence. And that's what a good audiobook narrator can do. So in a session, we aim to get between 60 to 70 pages sort of in the can, the proverbial can, by the way. And, obviously it depends on how long the pages are. But I need to know that there's a sustained energy, pace, and connectivity to this, to the read. And you can't have prepped 60 or 70 pages the night before. You can have an idea of where the story is going and what that arc is. But ultimately, you just need to have the confidence and stability in your tone that you can carry your energy all the way to the period. So how you do that is just by reading stuff you've never read before. And again, like going, fake it till you make it. So fake that confidence. I have no idea where the end of this thing is going, so I'm just going to keep it all the way to the period, and trying to get shape in the way that you read the sentence. Hey, a lot of the times narrators read it and we both go, that didn't land. So we pause, we track back, and we just redo it. But it's reading out loud, really exercising that and taking the time to sit in that confidence and share something. Again, what we said earlier, talking to someone. You're not just reading things out loud. You're convincing them, educating them, entertaining them. There's something that's happening, which is also why when I talk to people about becoming an audiobook narrator, it's defining who the voice is that's sharing the story. And it's a different voice, whether it's young adult or nonfiction or fiction. And, and then within those genres, there's entirely different voices. But trying to figure out, who is this person? What are they trying to teach me? What are they trying to tell me? And then really sitting there and saying it as though those words are coming from your being. I sort of have explained to people a lot that it's like trying to tell me the alphabet. Well, you know the alphabet. So say this book that you probably don't know where it's going with the confidence that you could as you tell me the alphabet, and just apply it to new words. Take your time, have fun. I forgot what the question is. Just so you know,
no,
I always
that's
do this.
fair. No, that's totally fine. When you said, tell me the alphabet, and I actually thought, oh God, is it Z or Z? I don't know. And it's that, do I know the alphabet? And then, then again, it's that doubt of, no, just commit to one, and then you can re-record it if it's wrong, or they want a different one. But I love that. No, you weren't, you answered. You're fine. You're good. I have another question. My brother is very eager, and I love this. Thanks, Dee. What's the funniest session you ever had in voiceover? Ooh.
Funny good or funny bad? Funny
Oh,
bad.
I don't know. I'll let you choose. Okay.
Um,
Without naming names, we don't want to embarrass anyone, but then like message me the name after because I want to know.
I will, so myself, and I should know better because I'm a parent, I was in a session where I was the only adult but voicing a child character, and I messed up, and I was like, oh shit. And I don't know if I can swear, but I did anyway just now. Beep.
Okay.
And of course the 9-year-old was like, cool. And I'm like, oh no, I'm a parent. I should know better. And then the director had to talk to me. Then they had to warn me the next week about no swearing around the kids. I'm like, I know, I'm really sorry. And I stayed to apologize to the parent. And the parent was like, oh, fuck, I swear way more than that in front of my kid. And I'm like, okay, but that's fine. That's your child. So don't do that. So that would be the funniest. That's the funny bad. Funny good. Funny good. I don't have a particular example, but the funny good is just when you get a chance to improv and you're with performers that give as much as they take. And after the end of that session, you don't remember necessarily what what was said, you just walk away with that great full feeling of play. And it's such a great feeling to have.
A classic improv for audiobooks, am I right?
Oh, yes. Let's improv 90 pages. Go.
That would be a skill and a half. But there is something to be said for when you're improving with a good partner. Oh, magic.
Yes. I will not be that person, but yes.
All right. So when we book something, I will. Me and you were working together. I'll be like, guys, don't worry, I got this. I'll be Lindsey's improv person and myself. Here we go. Is there anyone that you would love to work with, either coaching them or just working with them as a voiceover artist?
So you had asked me this question, and I was trying desperately to rack my brain for that answer. And to be honest, there's no one person, oh, I wish I could work with, because, and it sounds like a bit of a cop-out, but I just love working with people. And so I just appreciate and enjoy everyone that I get to work with. So there's no one huge person. A lot of the time for me, it's that relationship that develops over time, and then I'm excited when they come back. And so there's no one that I haven't worked with yet that I'm desperate to work with, because I haven't met them, if that makes sense. So I'm more intrigued and interested in that relationship we get to develop, either as the voiceover performer or as the director. And so I'm just excited about the next relationship that I get to create, sort of is what I look for.
But I love that. And you can, I mean, at least I feel that sense of when you work with someone, you want to be there, right? It's never like, oh God, why are you wasting my time? You just have so much respect for it. No, look, I've done a lot of classes. Okay. I've been doing this for a bit. And I'm like, oh, I know I paid you, but thank you for your minute. You're in it. You're involved. It feels like you want to be there, even though sometimes I don't want to be there because I'm in a bad headspace. And you're just like, let's figure this out. Okay, this is how we work it, so it's actually good. And I'm like, oh, I love this person. She's lovely. So it's just lovely what you said, right? Everyone you work with, you want to work with for the most part, or at least you fake it till you make it. I'm like, I believe that she wants to work with me. So even if you don't want to, I believe it. So there you go. But that's a really good skill to have in this industry, right? Because you can't choose who you're going to work with sometimes. And you just, again, the mystique in you just kind of, there you go. I don't know what this was. This was Mystique. I don't know how she transformed. Doesn't she just stand there and become the character?
And then all her scales kind of flip open. It's really cool CGI when that happens.
I don't have the budget for CGI in an Instagram live. I don't just become you. I don't think that would.
You need to buy one of those sequence tops that you can just go on.
Oh, that's fun. It would, but you know what? And then trying to watch that is a whole other, and then you never watch it, and then it just smells, and you go, this is why I never buy sequins. This is
why we're on Instagram. I don't have to smell.
Oh, Dave has so many questions. I'm just joking around. Okay. Ooh, who are your inspirations growing up? That's a very good question, sir.
That's a great question. Who are my inspirations growing up? Well, I'm going to say one of my, and it's not a famous person, but my cousin who lived with us when I was quite young. And she really helped to raise me with my mom and like my dad, I should say. But she spent a lot of time helping out. And she is probably one of the nicest people I have ever met in my life. She and her husband worked as social workers, and they had every type of person through their home, and they ran various different types of group homes. And she gave me so much when I was a kid, so much love and so much support. And then I turned around and watched them raise 4 amazing children, and then just give all the love that they had to everyone else around them as well. And if I could even be a percentage of what she is and her husband, then I would be a happy person. And so for me, the inspiration is that just unending love and support that they gave to people. And I got to experience that a little bit when she lived with me until I was about 4. So that would be, I think, one of my biggest inspirations.
That's so beautiful. Oh, a little feelsies there. But there's something to be said for it. I don't, these people that just kind of give and give, and you're like, how do you have so much to give? I actually don't understand. And it is when you meet that's a really special kind of person. I love that. I think you give. I think you give a lot. I think you're doing well. I know you needed that affirmation from me, so there you go.
Thank you, Robyn.
Hey, my pleasure. Oh my gosh, Lindsey, I love chatting. You're such a positive person. I need someone to make me smile. Okay, real talk about the industry. How are you feeling these days, Zoom wise, like Zoom classes, Zoom auditions? How are you feeling about that?
You know, I feel very fortunate that I work in voice for it, because it is a lot easier, I think, for us to continue working in the industry with this type of technology. It's a little bit different. And so for auditions, we at CHATS try to do our best to do as many Zoom auditions as possible so that you get that little tiny bit of feedback. As a lot of performers know, you get down that rabbit hole when it's a self-tape because you're not 100% sure what that VO spec means. So us just being able to come on, hear what you've done in that first read and go, oh, actually, we wanted X, Y, and Z, and it just shifts. And again, just that support. We love working with performers. That's why we got into it. That's also why we started doing Zoom classes, was because we love working with performers, flexing our own muscles as directors, but also getting a chance to connect with performers. So for us, it's been a lot more Zoom than I think I ever thought I was going to do in my entire life. But it has given us the availability to continue doing what we love to do. And directing via Zoom is very different. Sometimes there's lots of glitches and what you think you hear is not quite the same, but everyone gets it and everyone is very understanding, and I can continue to work. Sometimes I don't get to see the performer, which I love to do. But as I said earlier, sometimes you can hear in their voice what's going on. Their body is closed off. So I'm grateful that I'm in the voiceover industry because I've been able to continue through everything on Zoom and whatnot. So I think that's been great.
Absolutely. I mean, that being said, I've decided you're going to go back to on camera. I don't know what role. I'm going to write something. I'll figure it out. It'll be
I look forward to it.
Woman number 2 for on camera. Woman number 3 for theater. Woman number 2 for on.
Hey, I love directing. Sorry, said, would I ever go on camera?
Yeah.
If someone really desperately wanted me to, sure. But I, kind of like it doesn't matter what I wear, how I look for voiceover. Yeah, I mean, I enjoy doing on-camera performing. I think that there's people who are much better suited to it. I would love to get into directing for on-camera. I absolutely love all the nuances that you can then bring in with your body and a look and the positioning. And I love breaking down scripts quite a lot. And I really enjoyed directing auditions for on-camera. And I kind of miss that a little bit. And sort of reading opposite performers as well, just that little tiny sparkle of pretending that I'm part of it, but off camera.
But breaking down a script, that is a skill and a half that when someone breaks it down for me and I go, that's what that meant? I don't know if do you find that it's the more you're into industry, the more you know how to break down a script, or it makes sense to you when you read it?
I think there is a level of the more you're in it, the more you understand it. I mean, I've read so many full scripts, but also just so many scenes. And sometimes, depending on the genre, you just understand what the before moment was to be able to unpack what that one random page plucked from a 120-page movie is really about. Plus also understanding a bit of what casting is ultimately looking for. So for example, and this is an answer as well for animation. Sometimes those first round auditions, you get the different scenes because casting wants to see out of the gate, how many different emotions can you bring to this character? And so it's not necessarily, can you do a great job? It's, are you the character and can you be sad, happy, sassy, whatever the emotions are. Now I know I want to bring you back for a second audition, and we're going to go more in depth with it. And so sometimes it's stopping and going, lead character, why were these 5 scenes chosen if they're in the entire show? Because sometimes there's a very, one of my jobs a long time ago for on camera was to choose the sides. And sometimes that was the specific want was, okay, we need to know, can they be, yeah, they're the best friend, but can they be funny? And can they also bring in a level of extra emotion that this scene will need? So it's making sure you can figure out what casting wanted as well, or what ultimately the producers want of the show.
That's a fascinating job. I always wondered who chose the sides. I'm like, why these sides? And this is so interesting. This is just, I wasn't expecting this.
Now, sometimes it literally is, okay, this person only has 3 lines and this is the scene, so this is it. And there's no magic to it. I directed an audiobook one time, a couple of audiobooks with different authors, and one of the authors came in, and as an English major, I was so excited to ask the big questions about why they chose this color for this and break down some of the imagery in it. And she's like, I don't know, I just like the color. I'm like, what? I know that I would have had an entire class where the professor would have broken it down and we would have like uber dissected. And she's like, I just liked it. I was like, oh, okay.
Oh, that's almost borderline crushing when you hear that. You're like, but no, there has to be more. I mean, I feel like there's more to it. And that's literally how I break down every script. When it's, those simple characters, those 1-2 liners, I'm like, no, this is what this character, this is their backstory. It's going really poorly. Do not do that, people. It's not a good choice.
Well, and it's hard. I like that you mentioned that. I think now there are classes for small principal or actor roles, like the small role classes, because it's very important for people to understand how to bring those off the page. I know we're here more to talk about voice, but I found from a lot of the self-tapes that I would work on is people would either come in with no choices and just blow through the line, or too much choices. And it's, you can do all that backstory. You can write down, their whole life, all that great stuff that we were taught to do in all of our acting classes. But ultimately, you need to make that moment make sense. So if your job is to say table for 1 and then walk them out, commit to that moment. All that extra backstory and all that extra work is for you to know, but ultimately it's that little sliver of the scene, you need to just bring truth to it. And that's more what I think performers should be focusing on is the truth that they can bring to even the smallest moments, as opposed to all this fantastic, wonderful actor method and breaking down, the subtext that we all spend a lot of time doing in our classes, but just bring the truth.
But when you said table for 1, I literally pictured this sassy waitress of like, table for 1, so sad. And then like giving her a limp just to add character, just like, how far can I take this role that doesn't have to go there? She would have gotten fired. That is not what that role needs. Just bring them to the table. Nobody cares.
Yeah. Just bring the truth, man. Bring the truth.
Although that being said, I think I gotta write a character like that, a little sassy waitress, just judging. Are you ordering the burger? Really? Maybe I'll make her a vegan when in doubt. Okay. Oh, that could be fun. This is generating ideas. Thank you, Lindsay. This is not
very welcome.
Much unexpected. I don't want to take up too much of your time, and I'm wondering what else I can ask you regarding voice, because I just keep jumping from one thing to another. I get excited chatting with you people. But voice-wise, I mean, that was a dramatic sigh. I'm in my head. Actually, yes, this was my question. I didn't want to forget this one. This is what I find really interesting. When it comes to on-camera work, there's a lot of requests for general American for Canadians. Do you find that's the case? Well, at least not the ones I've gotten down, but is that the case? If you can, would it be preferred, voiceover-wise, to have a general American accent?
Well, it depends where the spot's running, right? Or it depends where the show is running. And so they will be very specific if they would like to have general American. If you have quite a strong, say, Maritimes accent, or, you know, Northern Ontario, or even prairies, then it's probably better to get a little more neutral with it. But if no one's ever mentioned it and it's only running in Canada, then for the most part, and again, there's always exceptions to this, for the most part, it's okay to sort of live in again, your own natural delivery. I would say most of us here in Toronto probably have a little bit of bleed between some of the northern states as well as Canadian. So, you know, we don't need to be too worried about our saris and our abouts, as long as we're not putting it on to such that it sounds like we're trying to be Canadian. So no, I wouldn't suggest that anyone overtly try and go outside of their natural accent unless it's requested.
That's good to know. All right,
and don't put on accents if it's not requested either.
Yeah, I know, that breaks my heart. That's a sad
truth. The number of people, the second they get that gorgeous evil character in animation that dip into their, and I can't do accents, but they dip into their sort of evil British accent. And I'm like, first of all British people aren't evil. Second of all, no one asked for British. Don't put on an accent. Because that's the first thing I'll hear.
Though, but it's like you have to go in lower register and then it always becomes British. It's just a thing. It's science. It is not science. That is not. I'm trying to kind of say fake news and then state the truth. But that's really funny that everyone else goes British too. There's something to British, and there's something to any character that's like, I picture them when they have a gun. I'm like, oh, this must be Western theme. Yeah, hey, partner, shooting stuff. You know, just want to go there.
Well, it's also tricky too when copy has been written and they've got y'alls in it or other sort of gunnas, and so you immediately want to dip into that accent because it's been written there. But then they'll say no accent. You're like, but then don't write it like it's got a drawl to it. Write it so that I cannot get dipped into it or suckered into it. But yeah, tip. Don't add accents unless it's asked for, because that's the first comment that we'll write down when we're listening back. Why are they this accent? Unless it's your natural accent. Yeah.
I'm reflecting on some. I've sent some. But you know what? In my defense, there was a character that they didn't request it, but I genuinely thought if it sounded like a grandmother, it is so funny. I surprisingly didn't book it, but I honestly could picture this little animal. I'm like, I'm telling you, there is something funny to making them sound like a grandmother. Again, didn't hear back, but that's so it wasn't funny. But I still think it could be. It made me laugh. I'm listening. I'm like, that's so funny. You know what? I hope they had a chuckle. Even if they're like, that's weird, I hope someone laughed. That's what I always wonder. You know, even I know no one's gonna get feedback, but I just want like a little ha text about, you know, the happy face with the tears. That's all I want. That's just like, I don't have to book it, but I just want to know I made someone chuckle like that.
And chuckle in a good way, not a ha ha ha, never again.
Yeah, and just X. Who is this girl? Yeah, okay, no accent. I know, I literally write that down every time. It's in bold. When I should just put it in that booth. No accent, slow down, breathe.
Yeah, slow down, talk to someone, take your time, connect, honesty I feel is my big the adjective that I find really resonates with a lot of performers, that when they're reading, and it's anything, we're all trying. So, you know, we'll have these great conversations. I always love this. I'll work with someone with these wonderful conversations, and I'm like, great, that's the tone, that's the energy. Apply it now, and you can hear them put on their voiceover voice, and suddenly they're reading the script, and I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Who is that? And where did the person go from a second ago? Bring the honesty that you have as a person into it. A lot of the time, that's really what, you know, especially right now with conversational being the kind of tone, particularly in commercial land. Honesty is really where it's at. Don't try and overthink it. Don't try and bring too much to it. Put that voiceover voice in your back pocket for a different type of audition or read that you need to do, and just bring the honesty.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest then. I don't actually have a back pocket, but I made it look
You
like
need
a
to get
jean.
new pants. Yeah.
You know what? Women's pants do not have pockets. It's very rare. I have the luxury today of having one in the front. It's nice. But yeah, maybe I just get new pants. That's the sidebar. I feel like we're just like dressed like a human. This has been, oh my gosh, Lindsey, I'm like past the hour mark because I just can't stop talking to you. But if there's any final words, I always throw it out like it's so weird. The finality that is the Instagram live. I know. Really. Anything else I didn't cover that you'd like to say?
I think we covered actually quite a lot of things. I actually forget the questions
Oh, I
that you
know.
had shared in advance, because and it's one, I'm terrible at talking about myself. I love inquiring and talking to and about other people. I would say, I mean, just to touch back on what I said before is you know, if any performers that happen to listen to that, one, don't let anyone tell you no, that you can't do something. Go and pursue it. Understand, though, that there are limitations to how far professionally or how much income you can make, but that doesn't mean you can't pursue being a performer. So always give yourself permission to feed that creative aspect of yourself. And don't let anyone tell you no, but that does mean you have to put in work. So put in work, feed your creativity, bring your honesty. Just to go back to what I said a second ago, bring your honesty, have fun. You know, this is performing, this is creating. There should be a level of fun and trust. And if you're in an environment where you don't feel that you're being trusted, and you don't feel that you can take risks and chances, then it's a bad environment. Not to sort of end it on a note
No,
there, but
we're
I
gonna
think it's important.
honestly. David threw in a question, but I'm gonna answer it for you because I've decided this is how. David asked, "What professional accomplishment are you most proud of?" And I'm gonna say, being a guest on Window Chats with Robyn is probably the
Yes.
highlight in your career.
Yes. I was like side chatting that to you. And then I said, please say that. That's exactly, yes.
We just had a side conversation. Even, yeah, that just happened.
Even though I'm holding my phone.
I know, like, even though we both are on our phone. So, yes, guys, honesty. There you go. We're being honest now. But thank you, Lindsey. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this, and thank you for being so supportive and just such a great resource for, yeah, voiceover actors that are looking into things. And just, guys, work with Lindsey because she's just awesome. Even though it's going to take time away from me being able to work with her, I'm willing to share you. I'm like this possessive person. But no, honestly though, like there's a lot of people. You just bring such a nice energy, and it's just nice to have someone make you feel like you can. It's even worth trying, right? And that's you're like, okay, let's make some choices, let's try some things. This is how you can get better. So just having that person, I think you're really great at that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate you. I know, like, you're a big fan. Deverett loves you, so there you go. That's David. I did that for you too. There you go. This is
well, I love your family. Your family's fantastic. I like working with you guys very much, and genuinely thank you for having me on here. And I love chatting with you. I think you've got a great energy, and so I've had a lot of fun. And yeah, I love working with performers. It's really my big thing. So I just want to get a chance to do it as much as I can.
Absolutely. And I will only take 5% commission from the people that sign up with you after this. There's no promo code, but there's no way of knowing.
Promo code, here's my direct deposit.
Oh my gosh, this has been so fun. Thank you so much, Lindsey. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Thank you very much.
See you in a session soon. No worries. Bye.